Cyberpunk 2077's latest expansion takes players to a shady new spy-filled location where you simply cannot trust anyone. Well, anyone except CD Projekt Red's quest director, Paweł Sasko, who was kind enough to guide us through the opening portion of Phantom Liberty and the new additions that have come to the game as a whole thanks to Update 2.0. So here's a few things that we found out. While Cyberpunk 2077 might present a less than ideal vision of humanity's future, CD Projekt Red themselves have arrived at Phantom Liberty's launch date full of optimism about what lies ahead. In fact, Paweł even admitted that this was the calmest he'd ever been for any game release.
I've shipped a couple of games in my life, and it just always feels very special, and I think this one is probably the calmest I've ever been.
Oh, wow. And since it's always good to know who you're talking to, Paweł was also kind enough to explain exactly what a quest director does. Oh, and anyone who just yelled out, "Oh, they direct the quests, obviously," just go sit in the corner. You're on a timeout. Your title is quest director. I think I have a pretty good idea of what that is, but what does a quest director actually do?
Right, so in to the Projekt Red, as a quest director, I have 3 separate departments. This is quest team, open world team, and cinematic team. Oh, wow. So those 3 departments are pretty much responsible for designing and implementing the story, the quests, the open world content in our games. Together, we were like making sure the story of Phantom Liberty, the quests, the open world content kicks ass as much as it can.
It kind of goes without saying, but Cyberpunk 2077 is simply one of the most stunningly beautiful games we have ever played, and Paweł also let us know about the extra effort that went into making the Xbox Series X and S versions especially sublime. Apparently it was a major challenge to create a world that was so brimming with detail and atmosphere without things popping up, whilst also ensuring that the frame rates held to a smooth and steady 60 FPS, even when the screen was filled with enemies, explosions, laser beams, and dismembered body parts, which in Cyberpunk 2077 is actually a pretty regular occurrence. And Phantom Liberty presented all sorts of new challenges, like getting Idris Elba's famous frown just right. It's a look that strikes fear into the hearts of Baltimore gangsters and aeroplane hijackers everywhere, and it actually required CD Projekt Red to basically rework their entire facial animation system so that Idris's character, Solomon Reed, could pull it off too.
Not many people know that, but basically to just make him properly in the game, we really had to like alter the rig of faces of our characters, because Idris has such a specific mimics and such a specific way of just using his face. And it was interesting because when I was talking to him, he was like mentioning that, like, you know, one of his eyes acts differently than the other and so on.
Oh,
he
wow.
actually blinks. His blinking is slightly desynchronized. But what is probably the most iconic, I would say, about Idris is his frown. You know, is the frown that he has on his face. He's like the most recognized for. And the thing was that our rig originally, like the one we have on our NPCs, couldn't do it, right? Because like we didn't have NPCs that required that. So we had to alter the rig of his face to be able to pull this off. And when I was talking to Idris, I told him about this, and he was really laughing because, you know, he obviously knows, you know, how he looks like, how he acts. And it was really a tremendous difference when we put Idris in the game and we had all of those alterations already on the rig of his face to really pull off his look. And it was a work of our cinematic animators. David Cordero is the guy that I wanted the name of. I wanted to bring up our coordinator of cinematic animators. He was studying this guy's face to really make sure that Idris looks like Idris, and it really makes a huge difference.
Did he do that in person, or was it from like reference photos? Because I imagine if it must take hours to just stare at someone's face, you probably want to use pictures and film.
It was
that.
A lot of reference material, a lot of video material, you know, from various like movies and clips, but also from the mocap that he recorded from us. So just nice. All kinds of references.
Of course, this wasn't the first time that CD Projekt Red had brought a Hollywood superstar into Night City. Keanu Reeves is already a beloved resident there thanks to his character, Johnny Silverhand. And both Johnny and Solomon feel like they were custom made for the actor. And Paweł also explained just how CD Projekt Red were able to tap into each actor's unique charms.
I think there's two different schools of, how do you cast actor for a role, Like one school is, I would say, the one that we used in case of Keanu Reeves. In case of Keanu, we sort of had a story written. We already knew what we want to do, and we were looking for an actor that would fit the best. And there, Keanu, because of his past, because of the fact that he played in Johnny Mnemonic, in Matrix, all of those roles, we kind of like knew that, okay, he will fit, and he, of course, agreed to play a role. And then from that point on, we knew that when we are designing quests and dialogues and scenes for him, this is the actor we are writing for. While in case with Idris, it was slightly different. Because we have written down a story outline. It was just a short, I would say, description of what the story is going to be, but that was it. There was nothing more. So when we met Idris and we sort of like kicked it off with him and we explained him, hey man, like, so this is the idea for your character, this is the idea for the story, but that's as much as we have right now. He really liked it. And then when designing quests and scenes and whatnot, we already could actually design it for Idris. When I was talking with him, I actually told him that it was so much better and easier to just design the scenes, knowing that he is there. He has this very dominant presence in the scenes.
100%.
And again, if you play Phantom Liberty, you will see it. Like a lot of reviewers, a lot of players pointed it out. That he has a very dominant, like sort of a presence in those scenes. And that is, of course, not by accident. That happened because we've designed it like that. When I was on GDC, so Game Developers Conference in San Francisco earlier this year, when I was talking about actually designing the stories and whatnot, and designing the choices and consequences, we really had to pay attention to the fact that on one side, you'll have Idris or Keanu. On another side, whoever you are choosing between. I don't want to spoil anything. And we had to, think about the fact that, Idris is going to actually make people really choose him. And most likely people will fall for him much easier. I mentioned a couple of times that we had Keanu come over and record many lines for us, for him here, because like we really wanted to make sure that both Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves in our game, they have an actual ambitious role to play. That there is some story arc, some character development, and it has depth, that we are not only using, those poster, I would say poster names,
it's not just for the face, it's for the portrayal that they can deliver as well, right?
Exactly, it's for the performance, it's for the depth, it's for the emotions, Henry. Like we as storytellers, we really want to make sure that you as a player, when you're playing our games, you're experiencing emotions, you are really interacting with deep characters, And if you're gonna get this, Johnny Silverhand is in the game, and Keanu Reeves playing that role, and then Solomon Reed and Idris Elba playing that role, you'll be moved. There will be things that will actually touch you. So this is all done for the art. For this experience, right? Like for you as a player to just feel things.
Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the best games out there for one of my favourite aspects of open worlds, quests and side quests. So since it's his forte, I asked Paweł, how is a great quest made?
We normally start for something, it will sound a bit strange, but we start with something cool. So we start from either from a character, or you start from an idea for a scene, or you start from specific dramaturgy or a choice, or you start from specific aesthetics that you want to do. So there is something that actually is basically a seed, a beginning of this whole thing that you're building. And then from there, you're trying to sort of like naturally blossom it out. There's this method that in Polish we call pączkowanie, which basically direct translation in English would be blossoming. It's like I'm trying to get an idea and sort of naturally develop it from there towards like actually other solutions and how you get there. And then, as you are actually working on those, you are trying to delve deeper into those ideas, find connections between them, structure them. And then, of course, you really need to use a lot of storytelling knowledge, a lot of the storytelling, I would say, practices to put it all into good order and make it all work together. That's basically what we are doing. And It really takes a lot of time to put it together properly. Like I always tell, the players, the media, when we are talking that, I mean, it's not that we are so good that anything we design is brilliant. It's just that we allow into our game only things that are good and brilliant. So we just end up designing like tons of things sometimes, but we just do not use a lot of it because like it's our responsibility as an artist, I would say, to just look into, the content that we have designed and think about, okay, what will be suitable for this piece of art that we are making. And that's very much like the way how I'm approaching always storytelling, quest design and whatnot. Like I'm treating it as a piece of art.
On average, how many different teams are involved in making a quest? Like whether it's a story quest or whether it's a side quest?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. So to answer this, I need to mention first the Agile. So Agile is a production methodology that we're using here in the Projekt. That was a big change after 2020 and release of Cyberpunk 2077. We have decided to change our production methods and go into Agile. And the way our Agile works is that you do have things that we call content teams. And content teams are basically a combination of people coming from various different departments working together on achieving the same goal, building one content together. And in case of, let's say, Delamain, that was the case. You have a content team, and in that content team, you have, let's say, a writer, a quest designer, an open world designer, cinematic designer, cinematic animator, gameplay designer, VFX artist, audio designer, QA. There's just so many people. It's roughly around like 20-something people that are in one content team. And that content team, their job is to deliver given quest, given piece of content. That is basically what they're supposed to do. So my designers are basically members of that content team, and each one of them are working on certain pieces of content, making sure that they deliver it. And they start working, from the story perspective. So they write a screenplay, an actual screenplay for the quest. And it sort of looks like something between like movie scenario and game design document. That's the way you do it. And after we have it, and this is normally written by writer, quest designer, and cinematic designer together. So after we do have it, then we normally start rolling it out to our artists, let's say, and our concept art team starts drawing. They start drawing characters, they start drawing locations, references and whatnot. And then, we start block outing it by level design team is like putting down the block out on the world to make sure that we have it as cool as only possible.
Let's say you're new to Cyberpunk 2077, or you just felt like starting over. Well, you'll be happy to know that it's possible to jump straight into Phantom Liberty with a brand new character. Choose your background, customize your character's face, body type, and other bits, and then get ready to dive into Dogtown. The game will even automatically assign you a bunch of attribute points so that you can hold your own in this dangerous district, and you'll be free to redistribute them as you like later on. The one other thing that you need to select before playing is the difficulty setting. And while this might sound obvious, Paweł really wanted to emphasize that the very hard option is, in fact, very hard. And rest assured that CD Projekt Red are definitely watching you struggle with it.
It really starts kicking off from hard and very hard. Like, hard can be challenging, but when it comes to very hard, this is actually a proper challenge. In this case, you really need to use all kinds of gameplay features that you have and so on. You need to level up, you need to take care of your gear to survive. And I was watching a couple of streamers in the past few days, and they were getting their ass handed to them by the very hard, because they jumped in expecting that this is gonna be simpler. It wasn't.
Nope. Yeah. Fortunately, you'll find that normal provides a sturdy enough challenge for most players, while those who are just here for the story and the chance to slice up some dudes in half, you can just hit easy and relax. Update 2.0 also overhauls the way cyberware upgrades work, starting with a new UI that gives you an X-ray look at how all that futuristic tech fits inside a human body. It's fascinating, insightful, and deeply gross. Ugh.
So here you go. Like what happens basically when you go to the first Ripper Dog in the game, you will be, of course, you know, you'll experience this like short tutorial sort of showing you what to do. And the whole thing, the whole deal here is about the fact that we have created this capacity system. So what it does, it basically shows you how much cyberware your body can take. And I honestly love it. Like, look at the right, you know, the way how the character is depicted. In the moment we will see the whole character, you know. It's the work of Robert Bielecki and his UI art team. Now, the guys put so much emphasis in making sure that you really feel like this cyber human, you know.
It gives you a lot more context to like quite how brutal some of these like modifications are, because you know you might just think, oh, I'm just going to put some gorilla arms, I'm just going to put, you know, a Sandavist in here, and you think of, and you're like, yeah, done, I'll just, you know, pop it in. But this makes me see how intense it is to have like a smart link put inside my hand. Would be it's like almost a bit gruesome, like knowing that much detail. It's so cool.
Exactly. It's a very interesting element of Cyberpunk as a genre. It's the body horror, you know? I would say Akira is probably like one of the most well-known examples of that. You know, like those of you who know Akira, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't see Akira, please go and watch it. You will love it, absolutely. But those elements, you know, of body horror that are very present for noir in Cyberpunk as it is, you can feel it, you know, here in Cyberpunk 2077 as well, you know, all of those elements. Amazing. Now, on the right side, though, you can see the whole armor system. So we have moved all the armor from the clothing to cyberware. So right now, you really can feel like this, like cyber human, almost like this fucking walking tank, you know, like this machine almost. And what's cool about it is that we have moved that armor from clothing. So now as a player, you can just wear whatever you want. So you know, like our players used to call it the clown meta. You know, the clown meta was that basically you were wearing like tank top with
whatever works,
with bra and you know, like short pants or like some lingerie on you, because this is what basically had the highest armor. Exactly. You can look the way you want, you know, style over substance and all that. Really important for Cyberpunk. We really wanted to make sure the players can do that. So yeah, anyway, just a quick glimpse on our cyber system.
Another clever bit of retooling that Paweł was pretty quick to point out is the change that Update 2.0 has made to Cyberpunk 2077's health system. Health items now work on a cooldown, so it's no longer possible to just save up like 30 of them like I used to and go barreling into battle without a care in the world. There's a real rhythm to each battle now, as players are required to be a bit more tactical with their movements, retreating behind cover while they recuperate rather than just standing out in the open spamming max docs.
As you can see, we have also redone completely the way how we approach the health. And right now, you just cannot spam those boosters anymore, right? Because before, like, people were just, like, jumping into combat and, like, popping that boosters like Tic Tacs, you know,
I remember
one
I had
after another.
I would have like 30 of the max docs going, and it would just I could just be unstoppable. And yeah, you're right. All right, I think let's wrap.
Yeah, we really didn't want to make it feel like this, so that was like the intention behind this change, to make you be a bit more strategic and in the same time just appreciate the rhythm of the combat a bit more, you know? Because like when you can be overpowered so easily, you sort of are not forced to use all of those tools and whatnot. So it's really cool to actually be able to just have that specific rhythm of like, okay, now I heal, now I shoot, now I slash someone, now I hide, you know, and so on. It just brings so much more depth into the combat. You know, it's not trivialized.
Although even once you have acclimatized to the new system, sometimes you still just have to take the L.
And also, like, this encounter has like 3 separate levels. So in here it's Jacek Matuszewski and all his team.
I took a huge I tried to double jump to the next platform and totally busted my ankle. When you're not hiding in a corner, desperately waiting for a chance to heal, you'll find that Cyberpunk 2077's combat has also been given a serious tune-up. The gunplay is notably slicker, with a nicely balanced aim assist that makes it easy enough for newcomers to pick up and play, while more seasoned shooters are going to have a blast picking their enemies off with absolute precision. And of course, it all feels that much more immersive thanks to that first-person perspective, which Paweł revealed is actually something the team have been tinkering with since their Witching days.
I did work on The Witcher 3, I did work on The Witcher 2 before, and I love Witcher, but seriously, like narrative and just the scene system in first person for Cyberpunk 2077, I absolutely love it. Again, I'm incredibly biased here because I am the one that actually have designed the first person perspective scene system that we're watching. Like, I was building very early prototypes in 2016 based on old Witcher 3 tech. Can you believe it? It was like all Witcher 3 tech that I have hacked together. We've got a couple other programmers, designers. We have hacked the shit out of it and built on that. I have built like a very early prototypes of the first person perspective scene system that you're seeing right now. And again, of course, you know, the prototype was much rougher. You know, this one is of course much smoother. We have learned so many more things, you know, from Cyberpunk 2077 to the expansion. And yet there's this tense moment, right? Because we need to get the tracker out from her neck.
But even if you're a regular sharpshooter, don't expect the bad guys to go down without a fight. The enemy AI is now a whole lot sharper, and they'll work together to flank you, push you into corners, and generally just try to become an enormous pain to your cybernetically altered butt. If you're playing as a netrunner, you might try and even the odds by hacking into nearby turrets to thin out the crowd. And while this is a great option, you'll find that many of your hacks are now traceable, and the enemy is pretty adept at using that to track you down and put an abrupt, bullet-riddled end to your computer time.
I love the katana.
Yeah, you can bounce the bullets off back to them, right? Like, exactly.
Let's take that.
Yeah, doing some net running as well. And you have taken over of the, because you have just you have applied the takeover hack, right? So you have taken over the turret just a moment ago, so you could shoot them. It's the one there in the car in the front of you. So
yeah, trying to get back control of it. I think I got shot out of it.
Oh yes, it could be. It could be actually that the enemies figure out where you are as a player controlling it. So.
So it's good to try and stealth to try and grab that turret, because then they don't figure out your location. They can't push you off the hack.
Yes, or just stay hidden, exactly, and then you can just mow them down. But because you have like jumped in with your motorcycle inside the whole encounter.
Yeah, a little bit obvious.
Then,
the new AI makes combat a much more dynamic affair, and you even get to take advantage of it at times, like when the president's collection of shiny white robo bodyguards come to fight alongside you. Even with Paweł's expert advice, there is still so much new to see in Cyberpunk 2077 that you'll really just have to check it out for yourself. Let us know what you get up to down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye, Tooms.